Hey everyone, welcome back to Deep Dives. Today we're looking at Stakataka. This rock and steel type Pokemon is very defensively bulky and it's very slow. It's another Ultra Beast, so I figured we covered Celesteela before, so we'll cover Stakataka today. If you like what you see, make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment down below what Pokemon or combo or archetype you want to see me cover next week. Series 9 is starting to kind of flesh out and become this very diverse meta again. Much different than what we saw in Series 7, where it kind of boiled down into something very standard from like Series 5. So it's kind of nice to kind of see everybody branching out with these new things for Series 9, and I want to see what other people have any kind of ideas what they want to see covered next time. So Stakataka. Stakataka is a very bulky steel. It's bulky defensively. It's hard to kind of like explain what Stakataka does really well because it's just like it has very high defense, has very good attack. It has okay special defense. Special attack is garbage. Its HP is kind of meh. But being that very defensive wall, you'd think it'd be a very good stall Pokemon, and unfortunately that's not the case. Unlike other stall Pokemon like Celesteela and Ferrothorn, it doesn't have any good way of accessing recovery. It'd be a Leech Seed or leftover, something like that. So it still can do the stall thing. It's just not going to end in a very long end game like you want. It's more of I'm going to set up a Trick Room, I'm going to soak up damage while also dealing a ton of damage back situation. Speaking of Trick Room, it's a very good Trick Room sweeper and a setter and a counter all in the same Pokemon, so it has all three of those roles filled out really, really well. Being base 13 speed means it's one of the slowest Pokemon in the game. I think Shuckle and a couple of baby Pokemon underspeed it, but Stakataka is one of the slowest, like, heavily used Pokemon in the format, so underspeeding Stakataka is usually fairly hard, so it makes it a very good Trick Room Pokemon. Looking at the history from Sword and Shield in Series 7, it started to see some decent amount of play as a Glastrier counter after Players Cup 2 ended. It's like Glastrier was very popular, Stakataka happens to be very slow, and it was actually a really good Pokemon for that. So, and plus Steel and Rock typing means it has both stabs, hits very hard against Glastrier respectively, and its very high defense means it can take a couple Max Quakes from Glastrier and probably be fine. But as Series 7 progressed and Trick Room kind of fell out of favor, it kind of lost its spot in the format and it just kind of fell out of favor. When we got to Series 8, however, it started to kind of come back, which was very odd. Trick Room wasn't as popular in Series 8 either, but we saw a little bit more Stakataka play than what we had been seeing at the end of Series 7. And Series 9 has kind of done the opposite of Series 7. Trick Room has now come back, and it's very, very popular. Hard Trick Room, and with like Hatterene and Didi, you see Togekiss and Stakataka a lot, or Togekiss and another Trick Room setter a lot. So it's starting to see more play as teams lean generally faster. Hard Trick Room gets better because those teams that are generally faster don't usually have Taunt or a good way to play in Trick Room. So it gives you a way to kind of play against it. Also, Celesteela being one of the more popular Pokemon in the format, Stakataka actually doesn't really care too much about that. Celesteela only can hit Stakataka neutral with Flamethrower. So it's kind of nice. It's just like, oh, I don't care about you. You're going to hit me on the special side, but I can hit you hard just as hard back. Glastrier being popular again also kind of helps Stakataka just because it's something that Stakataka answers and doesn't have to worry about Glastrier just sweeping through it all the time. Looking at partners for Stakataka, it's generally popular Trick Room things. Redirection's really good. Anything to kind of mitigate damage to it, things like Friend Guard, Togekiss with Follow Me, and Didi with Follow Me, Amoonguss with Rage Powder's another good redirection option, things like that. Those are all popular things that go with Stakataka. Other things that are popular with Stakataka are things like Intimidators and Snarls and other stat reductions and screens and stuff like that. Stakataka may be very bulky, but you want it to stay around for a very long time. So the best way to do that is to reduce the amount of damage your opponent's Pokemon deal via Snarl and Intimidate. Things like Lando and Incineroar are both very decent options at helping Stakataka extend its game plan. And you could also play Stakataka without Trick Room on it and have other Trick Room setters. Dusclops is actually a very good setter next to Stakataka. being 1, Dusclops can proc a weakness policy on your Stakataka, and 2, Stakataka has a 4x weakness to fighting. Dusclops is immune to fighting. That means Dusclops are very good switch-in for Stakataka, especially if they have like an Urshifu water sitting on the other side and you want to tank a close combat. It's great switch-in for Dusclops. Looking at how the Stakatakas stack up against each other, we have pretty common moves across the board here. Gyro Ball, Rock Slide, both stab, both very powerful, very common. Body Press, because it has a very high base defense, I believe it's like 212 base defense or something like that. Body Press is a great third move on Stakataka just because it's going to deal so much damage without any investment at all. Usually that fourth move is reserved for Trick Room. This is the most common one because when you max, it becomes max cards, so you don't have to worry about it too much, and it gives you a way for Stakataka to take control of the game by itself. It doesn't rely on a lot of other setup that way. You could also run Protect in that slot, which is fine. You could also run Protect in the Body Press slot if you just want to have Gyro Ball and Rock Slide and then Trick Room and Protect. That's also an option. High horsepower is there, like, rarely. There are Assault Vest sets that just try to be bulky and like anti-Trick Room, and those are usually the ones you see high horsepower on. But as you can see in the common item slot, Assault Vest isn't even a common item, so you don't have to fear high horsepower too much. Looking at the common items, Shuka Berry makes the most sense. Stakataka is 4x weak to ground. Reduce that ground damage weakness is really important, especially since ground is such a common typing. Life Orb is kind of hit or miss a lot of times. You get that bonus damage, but at the cost of your own HP, so you don't get to play that long, drawn-out game that Stakataka wants to play. Weakness Policy is a very good option for Stakataka, just because getting that +2 on your attack is insane. Making your Gyro Balls and Rock Slide hit harder, because Gyro Ball already has a very high base power, because you're so much slower than a lot of the other form Pokemon. You're going to hit like a truck that way. Body Press, same thing. The way Body Press works, it looks at boosts on your attack, if I remember correctly. Things like, if I remember correctly, it works that way. Weakness Policy will boost the damage of Body Press, even though it uses your base defense as its modifier. And then we have a couple of other 3s and percents and 2%. Chopal Berry is the fighting type berry. Focus Sash, Air Balloon, White Herb. These are all good items, but not very common for Stakataka to play with. Looking at these movesets here, I've got 3 setups here. I've got a Weakness Policy setup, I've got a Shuka Berry setup, and I've got an Assault Vest setup. The one thing you'll notice about all of these setups is it's 252 HP, 252 attack, and then some amount of special defense, or something close to that. EV-wise, Stakataka really wants that HP, really wants all that investment in attack, because you don't have to put any in defense, and there's no real point in putting a bunch in special defense. It's just, you're not benefiting anything from it. So, it's really, really good, and like just to go 252, 252, 4, and it mirrors what I said Wednesday about Celesteela EVs. These Ultra Beasts like having specific stats boosted, so in the case of Stakataka, you're not going to get that anytime soon unless you go minus defense, but knowing that you're always going to get a defense boost means you don't have to put any kind of investment in it. Things like that. As far as like the items go, it depends on what you're wanting to do with it. Weakness Policy is good if you're running other Trick Room setters like Dusclops alongside it. Shuka Berry is good if you're just playing Stakataka by itself or with a redirector. It's usually pretty good that way. Assault Vest is the Trick Room counter, as I would call it. Teams that don't want to play Trick Room but want something that can play inside Trick Room or just try to beat Glastrier or some other problematic Pokemon like that, slap an Assault Vest on it. 252 attack. This 20 special defense is an even number, and it gets you to, if I remember correctly, it gets you to like 190 something. 124 ends up being 62, gets you to 186, which is a really respectable stat line for your special defense. So building with Stakataka, since it's a Trick Room Pokemon, it normally wants Trick Room on its team, either by having it on something else or having it itself. So be prepared to play that. A lot of the times, Trick Room isn't the easiest thing to play. It's kind of hard to kind of get used to playing with Trick Room a lot of the time. Knowing when to set it up, when it's optimal, when it's not optimal, things like that. Trick Room mirrors are always hard just because everyone's trying to underspeed each other. Even though Stakataka has amazing attack and defense, it's weak to burn and paralysis, so be ready to stop that stuff. Tapu Fini and Lumberry are both great ways to help reduce the variance that comes via status and things like that. And outside of Trick Room, Stakataka still can do work. Trick Room lets it use its teams weak to Trick Room can still utilize its bulk and power. It just takes a little bit more planning, a little bit more setup and things like that to get Stakataka into a comfortable spot where you're not going to get blown up by a Max Knuckle from a +2 Thundurus or a Helping Hand close combat from Choice Band Urshifu and things like that. Beating Stakataka, like we mentioned earlier, it has 2 4x weaknesses in both ground and fighting. Make sure to abuse this. Urshifu, Single Strike, Landers, Therian, Garchomp, Mamoswine, Urshifu, Rapid Strike. All of these guys are really, really good against Stakataka. They do a ton of damage, even through its very high defense, just because it has a 4x. They usually have a stab, super effective move that hits it on that 4x weakness. Stakataka is also weak on the special side. It's not, like I mentioned earlier, that 20 special defense EVs gets you to 124. That's not a very good number. That's not a very high number for something like that. So Stakataka is very weak to on the special side. So attacking it on the special side with a neutral damage is usually better than hitting it on the physical side with a water type attack. Things like that. You're going to end up doing more damage on the special side. And be prepared to beat Trick Room. Stopping the setup or just taking out the setter entirely is usually the way to go. Things like Taunt, Dark Urshifu against Dusclops is really good. It's also really good against Porygon 2. If I remember correctly, I think you can take out P2 with a +1 with a Helping Hand close combat Choice Band Urshifu attack. I'm not sure. I remember that correctly, but I think that's the calc. So just either be ready to play in it or to stop it or to try and play around it. So wrapping up with Stakataka, being a physically defensive wall with no speed, it can usually spell the end. It can usually spell the end for teams with no good way to get through it. I'm just tripping all over my tongue today. I apologize. Comparatively, it has 2 4x weaknesses, so you can definitely get through it with the proper team planning and building. And Trick Room is usually key for a good Stakataka to just kind of take over games, so be prepared to fight it or stop it altogether. Again, Trick Room is super important for it. It's getting more popular in the meta. Have ways to beat it. Carry Taunt. If you have a spot and you need Taunt, find a place to put it. All of the Tapus get Taunt. There's a ton of other random Pokemon. Spectre gets Taunt and things like that, so definitely start playing Taunt on your teams if you're having problems with Trick Room. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone for hanging out and listening to me ramble about Stakataka today. Make sure to check us out on Twitter. Go check out the Discord. We hold events sporadically throughout the month. I know our next event is on the 29th. It's a Saturday Rumble, so it's free entry. Make sure to come check out the Discord. Signups will be open Monday, if I remember correctly. So definitely come check that out. And remember to subscribe and ring the bell and do all that stuff. Comment down below. And we will see you all next week. Bye, guys.